Everybody, welcome back. My name is Yumble, and today we're going to be building the Diverging Diamond, finally. After many requests from many different people, I've finally figured out a good way to do it. Stick around and enjoy some tips and tricks on how to build the Diverging Diamond in City Skylines. So what I'm doing here is what I've decided my favorite approach for this type of thing, and actually I'm going to start doing this on more interchanges, is we're going to start making the roads close together so that the split is a little bit nicer. I'll show you what I mean. This is our highway, so we've got our through highway established. What I'm looking to do, we're going to start from the middle and build outwards. This is just so we can get a guide on where the middle actually is. I do recommend, like anytime you start a new interchange, I'd recommend starting from the middle and building outwards rather than starting from the point where you think it's going to exit, because you may find that you need more space or you may find that you need less space. But start from the middle and see what kind of size you get. Single point urban interchange, start from the middle, and then the last thing you should do is connect the highways. In my opinion, that's just totally my style maybe. But the reason I want to put these so close together is so that we can ultimately split them. We're going to split it in such a way that the 3-lane highway, part of it will go left, 2 lanes will go left, and 1 lane will go right. And that's the basis for the whole thing. And it makes the seams a lot nicer, like where the interchange breaks off, or where the roads go down to 2 lanes and the one breaks off. It makes it a lot nicer rather than just magically turning this one down to 2 lanes. It always looks a bit weird when you do that. So this is a habit that I'm going to get into. So anyway, what I'd like to do here is take our 6-lane road and let's just see where the center is on these guys. Just as a first move, establish the center. And I've opted to do 10 units down, so I'm going to sink this road, and we're going to go down by 10 units here. And the arterial is going to go up and over. Ultimately, that's going to change a little bit. This will end up being -5, and the top of the interchange will end up being +5. So we'll maintain that 10-meter difference, quote-unquote. Cool, so that is exactly where our overpass is going to go. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 3-lane highway going over the top here. And it's going to be 4 units out on both sides. 4 units out from the highway and then 2 units over. So here's the big idea. Elevated, we're going across. It'll end up being 10 units in total there. And I want to do 4-unit spacing for this. I've found that you can't really make the Diverging Diamond that compact in Skylines, because you'll actually run into clipping issues where the textures start clipping through themselves. So you really gotta give yourself a little extra space on the overpass ramp. Or you could do this as an underpass, but I've never actually seen it done that way. Cool, so those are the roads. They're facing the right direction for right-hand traffic, which is actually wrong. So we'll end up changing that in a little bit. Once again, I'm doing this with certain measurements, and your measurements may vary, but I've discovered a way that I can pull this off consistently with a perpendicular situation here. And what I'm looking for is that exactly. I'm looking for that exact spot, which is 10 units away from the end of these. And what we can do here, just for the sake of imagining, let's take our road and we'll connect this to the other end here. Neato. And it's exactly 10 units away. And what that really does for us is gives us an anchor point to ultimately curvy-swervy these roads into. Let me get more specific. We're going to take the freeform road tool and our 2-lane highway, and we're going to go perpendicular off each of these overpasses and just land them right there. Using the freeform road tool, you'll get a nice curve every time. We're going to need both of these nodes for things. The reason that they're so far apart is because we're going to end up building off of them. But the point here is we can do the same thing on the opposite side. We'll do 10 units away, 2 units up, which centers it. Maybe in the comments, if you want to talk about 2 things. If you want to talk about how you handle pedestrians in interchanges, I'd love to know how you do it. And also, I'd love to know what height you use for your overpass ramp. You're going to see that I'm using 10 today, 10 meters, and you'll find that any less than that is really, really short in City Skylines. All right, next step. Ready? Here's another step for you. So we're going to go 90 degrees off of this guy. I'm actually going to use this road. I'm going to use our 2-lane one-way road. And we're going to go down by 10 units. Once again, all the units that I'm saying, your mileage may vary if you're building within a different space than I am. But I'm just going to go 10 units perpendicular to this point that we've made and 5 units over. And this is where the ramps are going to split. So once again, I'm just making kind of a marking. I call it scaffolding when we make a marking where the ramp is going to go, because I think it's super helpful for accuracy. And we're going to use regular highway ramp for this, and this guy. We're going to do the freeform road tool, and kind of the same thing we did before. Sort of like this one, but backwards. We're going to do perpendicular from this. Feel free to turn off road guidelines. They're literally not going to help in this situation. You don't want it snapping to any ancillary road guidelines. So we're going to go perpendicular towards the interchange, and we're going to make our on and off ramps. And this part will have a little bit of clipping, or Z-fighting, as some call it. You'll see the textures are fighting for space there. I'm using road anarchy to allow them to do this. We're going to adjust it later, so don't sweat that now if you can help it. So same thing over here, we've got this all planned out. We're going to go perpendicular to the guide road that we created. And those can be deleted once you've got that established. Those can go away. So that is the beginning, and that's really not too hard so far. Like that's a fairly good approach, I'd say. This is the tricky part. I'm probably going to have to step away for a moment while I figure out the exact way that this is going to connect. But connecting it to the road gracefully is a bit of a feat, and I'm going to see if I can measure out a way to do that consistently for you guys. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, my apologies for having the City Vitals thing up the whole time. That's another mod that is not relevant at all right now, and I'm sorry that my university availability is so bad and my fire hazard is so bad. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to have that menu up, but the first half of this went so well that I figured, what the heck, we'll keep going. So anyway, we've got, this is the measurement that I've decided, long story short. 16 units down and then over to the highway will give us what we need. So check it out, 16 units away from whatever you want to call this, the on-ramp, off-ramp situation. All these are backwards right now, we'll fix them all eventually. But 16 units is what I'm going to use for this perpendicular build that we're doing right now. And then back to the road. And what this really does, what we're really doing here, is we're establishing where the highway is going to split. Remember I said the last thing that you should really do is figure out where it's going to split? Well, this is that moment. The only reason that we're using this line is to measure where this road is actually going to terminate. Not terminate, but the 3-lane is going to turn into a 1-lane and a 2-lane. Is what's actually going to happen. So that is a good measurement there. I like that a lot. And we can get rid of these scaffolding roads. Those were just for measurements, of course. Same thing over here. We're going to take this road, send it over. Cool. It looks bad, but the measurement is correct, and that's all I really care about at this moment. And of course, there's also a lot of sloping to be done and things like that. I really recommend using Move It and another mod called Electric's Road Tools. They're both really, really good for sloping things and moving things around. But yeah, here's the next move. Once you've got these measured, I recommend taking your freeform road tool again. I really lean on the freeform road tool because it makes really drivable, good angles every single time if you use it correctly. We're going to go perpendicular off of this and connect there. And that should make kind of a clean exit ramp for cars to drive onto the interchange from. This is why we measure all this, so that we don't have to measure the curve. And that looks really, really good so far. Now another move, I know that we made all these nice roads, but what I'd like to do this time is take our 2-lane highway and maybe bring it so it's in line with, let's see if there's a good guide to bring it in line with. Not specifically. Let's pick an amount. Let's do this again and we'll pick an amount. Maybe this is also 16 meters. We did 16 meters a second, or 16 units rather. Let's back this up to 16 units, and I've got straight slope turned on, so hopefully the result will be decent. And we're going to start our curve right here. Let me show you what I mean by that. We're going to be doing a lot of the same kind of move that I just did. So that's good, 16 units up. And the way you complete this picture is then you take your, you take more 2-lane highway, freeform road tool, and connect on this end. And the reason we're doing this is really just for aesthetic, honestly. It's just because I think it looks a bit nicer. A practical reason to do this sort of thing, the sloping is all messed up, but we'll fix that shortly. A practical reason is that you want as little overpass as possible. You really don't want too much elevated road because that's much more expensive than ground level road in real life, in a real interchange. So the reason for doing this, the reason for bringing these together is to make this overpass a little bit shorter. The reason I'm doing this in the game is because all my measurements line up nicely if I do it this way. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan of measurements lining up nicely and cleanly. But yeah, that's the idea. I'm going to turn all these roads so they're facing the right way, and then we're going to get into sloping the whole thing and getting it cleaned up a little bit. I'll be back in just a second. I'd like to keep this same relationship between these two roads. See what I mean? That doesn't look all that high. I got people telling me that I should be using like 6 meters. This is what 10 meters looks like. 10 meters is barely making it. I got people telling me all kinds of stuff. Maybe they've never played Skylines, or maybe they're using different roads of different thicknesses or something. But 10 meters looks like we're barely cutting it. So feel free to feel free to experiment with your own road heights and let me know the results. Let me know your favorite amount. That's what 10 units looks like, though, with a 2-lane highway with a 3-lane highway over it. So let's take these, and we're going to move them all to a height of +5. That's why we have that guideline over there. So +5. Now we're in ridiculous territory. This is entirely too high. So let's move this one up to -5 to maintain that similar relationship there. Very nice, very nice. And now, of course, our sloping is all messed up, so let's... Cool. You can do this with Move It as well, but I've found that Electric's Road Tools is better for networks because you can do like a corkscrew with it. If you do anything with like a circular shape, Move It tends to act on objects on a given plane or within a given space, but it doesn't really help with if you were to corkscrew the road, it would get all messed up. Cool. And that is good. We've maintained the relationship, and we've taken the dirt that was dug out of here. For realism, let's say if this were really done in real life as a project, they would dig out the area of the underpass and use the dirt to build up the area for the overpass and kind of split the difference. And that's something that I never do. That's something that I'd like to get in the habit of doing from this point forward, probably, in my interchanges. So let's get these sloped. Now we've raised this one up. So this road actually deserves to slope up to its destination rather than staying flat, and it'll look much kind of nicer in my opinion. And I know I haven't shown you the directionality of this thing, but the way that it works is the first turn is an on-ramp, the second turn is an off-ramp, and then take that principle and apply it to the other side. The first turn from the arterial is an on-ramp to the highway, the second turn is an off-ramp from the highway. So it's all relative to the highway, whether it's an on-ramp or an off-ramp. Cool. So we've removed the extra nodes. Let's slope these guys as well. So we'll get the slope right. 3, 4, and hit enter, and Shift C. 1, 2, 3, 4. So from the starting point to the end point and all the nodes in between, hit enter. And that looks a little bit nicer to me. That looks a little bit better. We still have this clipping, which we'll figure out in just a second. One more fun thing I'd like to do is maybe we'll start the slope. Maybe we'll start it from here. So let's slope these guys up as well, just so that this whole thing kind of ramps up at a consistent rate so you don't get any sudden moves or anything like that. So check it out. We'll do the same principle over here. Probably starting from here, I suppose. Hit enter. Control C. So it lifts this part of the road up and allows the exit ramps to be kind of, you know, the whole thing has a fairly even grade about itself. And that's pretty good. That's functional right now. What you do to fix the clipping is you actually take Move It. Once everything's completed, make sure to wait till the end to do this, but once everything's built, take it and just nudge some of the roads slightly. Which one's a good one to nudge? I'm thinking the inner ones. Let's do the inner ones and we'll see how it works. You can see it kind of panics there for a second. That's the Z fighting happening in real time. But you can take that inner node and like nothing at all, barely any movement whatsoever. If you want to be really cool about it, at that time I didn't even move. That time it literally just snugged into place without moving. You can hold Control and it'll move it the slightest. That is the finest way to use Move It is to click an object or a segment or a node or whatever, hold Control, and then move it gently. One more thing you can do, now that this is looking fairly clean, it's looking pretty plain but clean, I recommend on the off-ramps, go back to your 2-lane highway and upgrade all of these to 2-lane highway so that the exit can look real nice when the cars are coming off. This one, if you do it on the on-ramp to the highway, you'll have to increase this one to 4 lanes unless you want kind of a brutal merge. I'd rather have the merge for the on-ramps here. That suits me kind of. But yeah, that's virtually functional, except for one thing. I forgot one thing. It's important. It's really important, actually, for the functionality of this crazy thing. You have to go to the center of this and actually create an additional node. You'll notice there's no pillar there. I really want for there to be a pillar and a node. And you'll see why when you see this thing running. I've turned off collision so that it'll actually form a pillar. There it is. There's our pillar. Cool. So the reason we need that node is because for the functionality of this thing... Oh, hey, if you have network skins, turn off the lights. Network skins too. I'll try to link it in the description. Remind me if I forget to do it. I'm really bad about it in some of these videos. But you can turn off the lights on a given network. This network, I want to turn off the light. And I'm going to upgrade these bottom ones to get rid of those lights that are poking through the road there. And now they're gone. It's that easy. So the reason we need that node is because the way that this thing works is vehicles are going to enter. So let's say I'm getting off the highway here. The vehicle is going to enter the interchange here. If it takes a left, the game may force it to stay in the left lane due to highway merging and splitting rules that I have enabled. If it stays in the left lane and there's no node in between, it's forced back onto the highway and the intersection is rendered non-functional. This guy's going right for whatever reason. I don't know what their plan is. Oh, okay. It's not lane managed yet. Let's do that now, actually, while I'm thinking of it. All right, you can't do that, sir. Please don't. So the way it works is you look at your ramps here, and it all should make sense. Those are incoming and outgoing, the ends. These are crossing counterintuitively. These come all the way across. Look closely at the way that I have the arrows and act accordingly, because this has to be correct for it to function. And that is what you get. The two ends are free-flowing, and the middle ones cross each other, so this intersection requires a light and a light. It requires 2 lights for it to function properly, and you have to do that on both sides to avoid traffic not working. You really have to manage the traffic. The game is not going to know without you telling it this. It's not used to this type of configuration, so there's no automatic setting that will allow it to Diverging Diamond properly, you know. What else is there? That's basically it. Really make sure that there's a node there, because you are going to need it. I would love to see a car coming in. Let's see if I can't catch a car coming in and making a left so I can show you how this thing works. Give me just a second. I've got the setup. I caught him. This guy's about to take the ramp. We'll see what he wants. Oh, let's go to 1 speed, and we'll see what he wants to do. Hopefully he's going to change into the left lane. Oh, nope. Well, never mind. This car is going to do exactly what we want him to do. So the car is going to take the left lane, which forces him up the left ramp, which gets him going left off the highway. And he's going to have to change lanes right there in the middle. So you can see what happened there. He had to change lanes at this point. There was no... if you don't have that node in the middle, which conveniently creates a pillar. So if for no other reason, do it for the pillar. But functionally, you got to have it. They have to be able to change lanes there to get to the middle so that they don't exit back onto the highway and just loop around. Because that's not what this is. It's supposed to be a highway exit, you know? But yeah, this is fully operational. I'd like to take a second to kind of clean it up. But functionally, you've seen all the tricks that I have. Functionally, you know what it takes to build this thing. Let's see if I can't beautify it and enjoy how it looks. And here we go. This is exactly what it is. I've opted to do intersection marking tool at all of the intersections, even the ones on the highway. I've opted for a short little key wall. Using key anarchy, you can put a key wall to act as a retaining wall for the tall part of the intersection. It's a short little thing there because I've found that since we're going a bit more shallow than I usually go, we don't need it up the whole side here. So it left room for some trees and stuff. There's also a light. So a light, and by a light I mean 1, 2, 3, 4 lights on the thing. Using Traffic Manager, you can create a junction, which is essentially a fancy term for a bunch of lights that all work together. Some lights are always green, like all the turn lanes are always going. The left turns have to wait until these guys stop so that they don't weave too hard. Honestly, Traffic Manager needs a whole video on its own. I need to get on that and talk about how lighted intersections, how a timed traffic light works. But yeah, essentially it's a 4-light junction, and I think it came out pretty good. I think it's highly functional. It's moving a lot of traffic. I still don't know if it's any better than a single-point urban interchange, or maybe one favors through traffic more than the other. I'm not sure. I haven't seen hard numbers on it, but boy, does it look nice. A lot of junctions, a lot of nodes, a lot of roads, a lot of marking and decorating, and a lot going on, but I think it was all worth it. And this is actually going to stay in my current city on Twitch. Check me out at twitch.tv/yumbltv, and thank you for letting me teach you what I know about the Diverging Diamond. I really appreciate you watching the video. Feel free to subscribe here as well. I really appreciate it. Everyone who's subscribing. I plan to do a lot with this channel moving forward, and things are going to develop quickly, I think. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I've been Yumble. I'll see you in the next stream or the next video.